So Paul wasn't telling women can never wear their hair braided, but you can't wear your hair braided here right now while this cult is running amok, because braids are associated with them. And the costly clothing and the pearls and the gold. There's nothing wrong with gold. The streets of New Jerusalem in heaven are made of gold, and the gates are pearls. So there's nothing wrong with gold. There's nothing wrong with pearls, and there's nothing wrong with women wearing gold and wearing pearls. But because the cult of Artemis had infiltrated the church at Ephesus, emasculating men, influencing the women in the church to usurp their husband's authority, and bringing in that demonic, satanic, devilish Artemisan doctrine into the church, Paul said enough. He said, until we snuff this cult out, I don't permit a woman to teach a man. She can't have authority over a man. Matter of fact, tell her to be quiet, because right now we don't know who is who. But when you don't know that, you take Paul's words to Timothy, and in 2026 today, at any church USA or any church globally, you tell a woman she can't have authority over a man and she can't teach a man. And that's not why Paul wrote that to Timothy. He was addressing a demonic attack. And this is why he says, after all of this, after all that I'm telling you, see, now we know what the nevertheless means. He says, how does Artemis work? How does she work? How does Diana work? How does her cult work? They wear costly clothing. They adorn themselves in precious stones and gold and pearls, and they braid their hair. So you have to read it like this. Paul is telling Timothy, the women of the church at Ephesus can't do this right now. They have to be distinctly different than the cult of Artemis, because remember, her cult's running the city and they're infiltrating the church. This is how you snuff a cult out. It's how you smoke them out. And he says, watch this. He says, don't worry about the braided hair. Don't worry about the gold or the pearls or the costly clothing. None of that needs to be of your concern anymore. You'll still be saved in childbirth. You'll still be protected. Artemis is no longer your protector, women of Ephesus. You're under new guardianship now. But I actually understand why he wrote what he wrote in verse 15. And I'm about to tell you why he said it. Because on the surface, it seems like it's out of place. But when you understand why he wrote it, then you'll understand Paul wasn't telling all women to be quiet. Paul wasn't telling all women that they couldn't teach men or have authority over men. He was talking to the women at Ephesus for a very specific reason. She was a fertility goddess, but more importantly, she was the goddess of Ephesus. She lorded over Ephesus. The people of Ephesus served and worshiped her. Now here comes Timothy, pastoring a church where she's the dominant force. And some things got out of hand, and Paul had to write a letter. Let me explain her influence in that city. The cult of Artemis in Ephesus was dominant, wealthy, and pervasive. They were a religious force centered on a mother goddess figure, distinct from the other image I showed you. Her massive temple, the Temple of Artemis, it was one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. Right? Anyone ever heard of the pyramids of Giza? Right, the pyramids of Giza, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the Temple of Artemis was one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. This temple served as a major economic bank, pilgrimage site, and center of female-led worship. And it often caused conflict with Christians. In Acts 19, Paul, gangsta as he always is, rolls up in the city and he's preaching the gospel. And a man by the name of Demetrius, he was a silversmith and he created shrines of Diana and he sold them. All of the smiths of the city made these shrines and sold them. As a matter of fact, if you go to Ephesus today, you'd have to go to Kusadasi Turkey to go to Ephesus and see the ruins. But as soon as you step up and get ready to go in, shrines of Diana are all over the place. And people are trying to sell you Dianic Artemisan shrines. This image right here. That was the grip she had on the city for judgment. What did I just read? I just read that a woman was in charge. Now, it wasn't the norm, but it happened. The Bible gives us precedents for it because it actually happened. A woman by the name, mind you, the church is not here yet. A woman named Deborah was placed in the position called by God to lead and to govern Israel. A woman. A woman. A woman. Okay. So what have I read? Well, I started us off by reading Paul's words to Timothy where he said, woman, hush. Be quiet, learn in silence, be submitted. You can't teach men or rule over them. That's how we started today's lesson. That's New Testament. The New Testament is a better testament established on better promises. I just took us back to the Old Testament and showed us examples of women shepherds and even a woman judge. Now, without any more theological discernment, it would seem to me that if God, shortly after sin comes into the world and women are being oppressed, probably at the highest level because sin is fresh on the scene, and I told you in the first lesson that the sin nature was going to cause man to put his foot on the necks of women, and the sin nature was going to cause the woman to usurp the man's authority. It was a distortion to the original order of God before sin. And yet early on in Scripture, we've got a woman who was a pastor. Yes, we're dealing with actual sheep, but a pastor, a shepherd nonetheless. Then we saw some other shepherds, and then we read about another shepherd, and then we read about a judge. And after all of that, we enter into a better testament, and God says, hey, you woman, shh. I don't know about you, but it seems like we're reverting back to old